You're listening to the Bare Metal Cyber Prepcast, created to help you succeed in your Security Plus certification journey. Learn more at baremetalcyber.com, where additional prepcasts, books, and training materials await. Let's get started. Purpose-built penetration testing environments exist to allow organizations to safely simulate attacks without placing production systems at risk. A well-constructed lab provides a contained space where vulnerabilities can be exploited, malware can be tested, and detection systems can be fine-tuned. Without such environments, testing directly against production could lead to outages, data corruption, or unintentional disclosure of sensitive information. By separating testing from live systems, organizations gain the freedom to explore attacker behaviors in depth, validate controls, and build staff skills, while keeping critical business operations safe from accidental disruption. Isolation is the first principle of test environment design. Air-gapped labs are completely disconnected from production and the internet, ensuring no cross-contamination. VLAN segmentation provides logical separation within the same physical infrastructure, limiting communication between lab and production. Virtualized sandboxes take advantage of virtualization to isolate test machines while enabling rapid provisioning and reset. Each method offers trade-offs. Air-gapping maximizes safety but reduces realism, while segmentation and sandboxes provide more flexibility but require strong safeguards. Selecting the right isolation model depends on the level of assurance required and the types of tests planned. To generate useful insights, test environments must replicate production realistically. This involves setting up representative services, authentication flows, and network structures. For example, a test web app may mimic the real login flow, but with masked data and simulated users. Authentication and directory services can be mirrored to reflect production logic without exposing real credentials. Using sanitized or synthetic data ensures no real customer information is at risk. The closer the test lab mirrors reality, the more meaningful the results, but the environment must also remain safe by avoiding live production data. Snapshots and checkpoints are vital for safe rollback when conducting potentially destructive tests. A snapshot freezes the environment state before testing begins. If an exploit crashes a system or malware corrupts files, testers can roll back instantly to the clean baseline. Checkpoints allow incremental saves, so testers can revisit specific phases without rebuilding the entire environment. For example, a database snapshot before SQL injection testing ensures the lab can recover after corruption. Rollback mechanisms not only preserve test continuity, but also reinforce safe experimentation, preventing errors from derailing entire exercises. Synthetic data and data masking play a key role in privacy-conscious testing. Rather than exposing real personally identifiable information, PII, organizations generate fake but realistic datasets. For instance, names and credit card numbers can be generated randomly while retaining realistic formats. In cases where production data must be referenced, masking techniques obscure sensitive fields while preserving relationships between records. This allows testers to validate queries, workflows, and business logic without compromising customer trust. Synthetic data ensures compliance with privacy regulations while enabling realistic attack simulation. Tooling environments within a penetration test lab should be carefully structured. Dedicated attacker hosts house exploit frameworks, proxy tools, and custom scripts. Separate logging and witness appliances capture all test activity for analysis and later validation. Sensors deployed throughout the environment provide visibility, acting as neutral observers of test actions. This separation allows offensive tools to operate freely, while defensive tooling captures telemetry. For example, an attacker VM might launch exploits, while a logging appliance captures all network traffic, ensuring tests can be reconstructed and analyzed for lessons learned. Telemetry collection points are essential to understand test behavior and fine-tune detections. Security information and event management systems can aggregate logs, while packet capture appliances record network activity. Endpoint detection and response (EDR) agents provide host-level visibility into executed processes and attempted exploits. By embedding telemetry, organizations capture not only whether an attack succeeded, but also the signals defenders should detect. For example, if lateral movement is attempted, packet captures and CEM logs can show how it unfolded. Telemetry transforms the lab from a black box into a learning and tuning platform. Staging and production test strategies have distinct purposes. Staging environments mirror production closely, often using sanitized datasets, and allow more realistic testing without the same level of risk. Production testing is occasionally justified, such as for validating live defenses, but it carries higher risks of disruption. For example, a denial of service test may be throttled and run only in staging. The trade-off is realism versus safety. Staging reduces risk but may miss subtle differences, while production maximizes realism but requires tight guardrails in communication. Choosing between them depends on risk appetite and test objectives. Resource management is critical to keeping labs sustainable. Automated rebuilds and provisioning as code approaches make it easy to reset environments to baseline states. Infrastructure as code templates ensure environments can be recreated consistently and quickly. Cost controls must also be considered, particularly in cloud-based labs where unused virtual machines can generate expenses. For example, a script might tear down unused test VMs nightly to reduce costs. Efficient resource management makes test labs scalable, affordable, and repeatable, ensuring they remain useful over the long term. Access controls and consent within the test lab are essential to prevent misuse. Only authorized testers should have administrative privileges, and access should be logged and reviewed. Unauthorized use of a pen test lab could turn it into a staging ground for real-world attacks. Consent records, similar to production rules of engagement, should define who can access the lab, for what purpose, and with what boundaries. Strong access governance ensures that penetration test environments remain a controlled resource, not a liability. Documentation ensures environments are reproducible and defensible. This includes manifests listing systems and configurations, versioned baselines showing changes over time, and policies for recording tests. For example, every test may generate a lab record noting scope, start and stop times, and rollback points. Documentation not only supports auditability, but also improves team collaboration, ensuring labs are consistently understood and repeatable. Without proper documentation, valuable lessons and setups may be lost, undermining the long-term usefulness of the testing environment. A practical starter exercise brings these ideas together. Provision a small virtual lab with one web application server, one database server, and an attacker VM. Snapshot the baseline before testing. Run a controlled exploit, such as a simulated SQL injection, against the web app. Observe telemetry from logging appliances to capture the behavior, then restore from the snapshot to validate rollback. This simple workflow demonstrates the full cycle of building, testing, observing, and resetting, safely highlighting the discipline that makes penetration testing environments powerful, reproducible, and safe. By the end of Part 1, learners should recognize that penetration testing environments are not improvised setups, but carefully designed, isolated, and instrumented labs. They replicate production safely, enable rollback, protect sensitive data, and generate telemetry for defense tuning. With this foundation, Part 2 will explore advanced practices like replayability, purple team exercises, safe cleanup, and training applications that maximize the value of testing environments. For more cyber-related content and books, please check out cyberauthor.me. Also, there are other prepcasts on cybersecurity and more at baremetalcyber.com. Integrating monitoring into test environments ensures that security teams can evaluate detection capabilities without the distractions of production noise. By connecting lab systems to SIEMs, endpoint agents, or packet capture tools, defenders can see whether test actions generate alerts. For instance, if a simulated brute force attack occurs, logs and alerts should appear just as they would in production. The difference is that in the lab, signals can be isolated, examined, and tuned without risking alert fatigue from unrelated events. Monitoring integration turns the lab into a proving ground for defensive readiness. Replayability is a valuable feature of test environments. Malicious traces, such as captured network packets or logs of simulated malware execution, can be recorded and replayed against new baselines or updated detection rules. This allows defenders to verify whether tuning improved detection or whether changes inadvertently weakened visibility. For example, if a log parser update misses indicators that were previously caught, replaying past traces will reveal the regression. Replayability ensures continuous validation and allows organizations to learn not just once, but repeatedly, from every test executed. Safe cleanup processes are essential to prevent test artifacts from leaking or persisting in unintended ways. After tests, any malware samples or exploit code must be removed, credentials rotated, and test accounts deleted. Lab images used in tests should be wiped or re-imaged to eliminate residue. For example, if a ransomware simulation created encrypted files, those artifacts should be cleared to avoid accidental exposure during later exercises. Cleanup preserves safety and ensures test environments do not become contaminated over time with remnants that could confuse results or introduce risks. Continuous integration concepts can also be applied to penetration testing environments. Automated refreshes from sanitized production templates allow labs to stay up to date without manual rebuilds. For example, a nightly process might pull fresh configurations from production, scrub sensitive data, and generate a new test baseline. This approach ensures test environments reflect current reality while still protecting privacy. Integration with CI/CD pipelines also allows tests to be embedded into software development workflows, catching weaknesses earlier in the lifecycle and aligning with DevSecOps practices. Environment tagging and inventory provide clarity and auditability. Each test system should carry metadata identifying its purpose, owner, and associated test. For example, a VM might be tagged as Pentest App 1, Owner, Security Team, Scope, Web App Test, Expiry, 30 days. Central inventories allow auditors or managers to confirm that environments are legitimate and authorized. Without tagging and inventory, labs risk becoming a sprawl of shadow systems with unclear ownership. Proper inventory makes testing environments accountable, reducing ambiguity and supporting governance reviews. Purple team approaches bring offensive and defensive teams together within the lab. In this model, red team testers simulate attacks while blue team defenders monitor and respond, collaborating rather than competing. This partnership accelerates learning. Defenders can immediately see what they missed, while testers can adjust scenarios to help defenders improve. For example, a simulated phishing payload might be launched, with defenders tuning email filters in real time to block variants. Purple teaming transforms labs into living classrooms, aligning attack simulation with defense improvement in a safe, collaborative space. Resource isolation is another safeguard. Test VMs should be prevented from reaching the internet unless explicitly required. This prevents unintended propagation of exploits or malware. For example, a worm test should run in a fully isolated environment with no internet access. Where internet connectivity is needed, strict egress filtering ensures traffic remains within bounds. Resource isolation ensures that test activities remain confined, avoiding accidental spread or triggering alerts in upstream providers. This principle reinforces that even simulations of malicious behavior must remain strictly controlled. Legal and procurement constraints apply when using vendor-provided labs. Questions must be answered about who owns test images, how long lab data persists, and what obligations vendors carry for secure disposal. For instance, if an external cloud service hosts a test environment, procurement contracts should specify that all data and images are destroyed within a set time frame. Without these agreements, organizations risk having test artifacts persist beyond their control. Clear contracts align external lab usage with compliance and legal standards, ensuring external testing remains as disciplined as internal environments. Performance and scale testing in labs must be carefully managed. Simulating load, stress, or denial of service conditions helps validate resilience, but tests must be throttled with guardrails. For example, a DOS simulation might ramp up gradually, with automated triggers to halt if thresholds are exceeded. Labs allow safe exploration of scale limits without jeopardizing production, but they must include controls to prevent overreach. Structured load testing provides insights into resilience while maintaining responsibility for system stability. Testing environments also serve as valuable training grounds. Offensive teams can practice exploitation techniques safely, while defenders gain hands-on experience with detection and response. For instance, analysts can investigate simulated breaches, trace attacker movements, and rehearse incident response playbooks. This hands-on practice builds skills more effectively than classroom learning alone. By providing safe, repeatable scenarios, labs foster skill development across security roles, ensuring staff are ready when real incidents occur. Retention and reuse policies for exploit code and artifacts are critical. Exploits, payloads, and captured traces should be treated as sensitive materials, stored securely, and shared only on a need-to-know basis. Retained artifacts can be useful for replay and tuning, but they must not be left unsecured in repositories or shared drives. For example, if proof-of-concept malware is created, it should be stored in controlled vaults with access logging. Treating these materials with the same rigor as sensitive data prevents accidental leakage and ensures compliance with both legal and ethical expectations. Thanks for tuning in to the Bare Metal Cyber Prepcast, your trusted source for cybersecurity news and insights. Remember to subscribe at baremetalcyber.com so you never miss an update. And visit cyberauthor.me for best-selling cybersecurity books that equip you with expert knowledge. Until next time, stay secure and stay vigilant.